Shall we start?
Yes, we can
Yes.
start.
Okay. We do have some viewers on our live chat, so yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's
Okay, on the video. Okay.
okay. We see your face now.
All right. Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you, Janet and One Sports for having me with you. I'm currently in Japan, 2 hours away from Tokyo, up north. We recently opened our academy here. We are in Iwate region, and we have about 22 courts available for us. Our main, I would say, client is Harrow International. It's the first boarding school in Japan, and they decided to run an academy program for all the students here. So we have regular training every day of the week with them. And then we recently put together a school team for them to be able to compete nationally and internationally. This will start from September. And at the same time, because of the wonderful facilities that we have here, we are going to run UTR events, because we also recently partnered with a large-scale tournament organizer based in Madrid. They're having tournaments all over Spain, and we are their first international partner. So they are very supportive, and they help us to organize all our events together with them, but also sanctioned by UTR. So it's a good opportunity for Japan, because it doesn't really exist for younger players. It's mostly for seniors. So all that brought me here. And before that, just to introduce a little bit briefly myself, I was in Hong Kong for 7 years, where I was running the academy, the Bruguera Tennis Academy, which was actually my academy, but branded Bruguera, because Mr. Bruguera and his son were my partners. And we were based in Hong Kong GTA. We started the project 2 years before that. So it was almost like 10 years for me working on this Hong Kong project. And then after that, I started working a little bit with the federation. I helped them with their training centers under 12 years old. And then, as many of you obviously faced as well, we had a very difficult time with the COVID. And it was a good time also for me to rethink my plan, what I wanted to do. I achieved some very interesting things with Bruguera in Hong Kong. I did the same with Justin Henin, which was former #1 in the world in China before. So I decided to create my own my own group, my own academy. Not only for high performance player, even though it's really my trademark, but also for all types of players, really. And I also decided to give it a chance for other sports in Asia to start growing, just like I did with tennis in a way. So we also going to have the first international paddle academy in Hong Kong. So paddle is the fastest growing sports in the world, with pickleball in US, paddle in Europe. Paddle is a mix of tennis and squash, and it's very, very popular, PADEL, for those who don't know. And we will start this academy, as I said, next year in Saisha, so Mount Shan Sai Kong over there. A very big project. We're going to have 7 courts for us. And at the same time, we're also going to have pickleball. So all that keeps me very busy. I also have a few things here and there in Hong Kong on the tennis side. And then during COVID, we decided with my family to relocate to Barcelona. I honestly didn't spend too much time in Barcelona in the past year because I've been very busy with all these projects, but my family is there. And obviously I also have a project to bring out players from Asia, particularly Japan, Hong Kong, China, and Korea. I had a lot of Koreans at my academy before, and we want to bring groups all over to Europe in order to give them a chance to accelerate the learning curve. And I hope this is what I'm going to do tonight as well. So I have prepared a few slides for you to take a look at. I assume before that there will be a lot of parents. So except for Karis that is here, I think it's all parents. I'm going to share my screen with you, and hopefully it will be something interesting, and we can discuss after that. And if you have any questions, anything you want to ask me, I'm here for that. My goal always in everything I've done in the past was always to have the parents on my side, because I just feel that the parents are probably the most important component in the development of a player. The coaches come and go. The academy or the clubs obviously are very important because they are part of the environment of the player. But as you all know, when you're on the tour, whether you're on the ITF or on the ATP, on WTA, you are by yourself, you're on your own, you have your own little team, and most of the time the people that created that team are the parents. So us as a tennis coach, we can only influence that much because we're not part of your discussions at home. We're not part of the decisions you might have to take or make because of your financial ability, or because of your preferences, or because of your values. And I think that is tremendously important, that the parents are really part of the team and part of the group. So what I'm gonna explain at first, before going to that parents component, is the ecosystem. Okay, I feel that it's sometimes a bit difficult for parents to comprehend, because not all the parents necessarily played at a high level in tennis or any other sports. And at the same time, I know that parents want to make the right decisions. Players, they also obviously have a big importance, because at the end of the day, the parents can be as determined as they want. If the player doesn't have that motivation or that commitment or that engagement, we most likely won't achieve big results. So for me today, I wanted to explain you a little bit what I feel is the right ecosystem. Okay, so an ecosystem is a complex network of interconnected system, and it's almost biological, because you have really different components that are interacting in this ecosystem. And if I make a parallel with tennis, it's not only the coach, is the other parents, is the other kids, is the distance you take to get to the club. It's a competition. It's the surface, is whichever equipment you're using. There's so many components in the ecosystem. And after almost 12 years in Asia, I feel that I wanted to, as I said before, I wanted to create something slightly different than just having a physical academy. That's the reason why I'm a little bit across 2 countries at the moment. Hopefully I'll get to where I want to be, but I have a pretty clear vision of what's the right ecosystem, because I've seen it throughout my career. I've developed it in many different places that were completely different from one to another. There was a lot of different cultural barriers. And at the end of the day, I think it's pretty much always the same recipe. So going a little bit further about what I said in the ecosystem, my goal in China with Justin Henin and with Bruguera was always to develop that first top 100 ATP WTA born and raised in the country. This has been done now, not necessarily in Hong Kong, but in China. Over the past 12 years, I've seen really the rise of China, and we probably participate in that ecosystem in a way because we had Lina practicing at our academy with our one of our top coach there, who was actually the co-owner of the group where I was working for. Then we had all the top juniors that went there, and two of the three guys that are top 100 now, they at some point they pass by, they play some tournaments. So obviously I think an ecosystem is a very as I said, large network of intertwined system and people and organization, and I'm very proud of having seen that in China first, because that gave me a lot of inspiration for Hong Kong. And when I started in Hong Kong, I knew that I was not going to do the same thing as the others. I didn't want this academy to be a private club. I wanted this place to live and breathe the craft of tennis, not only because of a brand or a name that I was bringing, but mostly because of the people and because of the atmosphere and because of the culture and because of the families and because of everything I was bringing, because I knew that would be the ecosystem that will benefit the players. And for those who know a little bit what we've done there, I think we had a very interesting success, taking into consideration that Hong Kong never had that before. And it was really like reaching a milestone. So the type of ecosystem that I see is basically vast and static, versatile and fluid. I would say the forest on the left side is the training. This is what you can rely on. This is what you can design, the number of hours, the coach that you prefer, the players that you are giving to practice with, the course that you have to be on. When it rains, you know where to go as well. I mean, this is really fixed and clear. And then you have the competition. The competition is completely different. That's what creates an earthquake in your training and in your ecosystem. And this is where things have to be balanced properly. To make a short summary of the case in Bruguera, which is the most recent one. I didn't want to go back to the case I had in Europe, but we can talk about that too. Basically, very famous Spanish system created by this person you see on the picture, and basically inspiring a lot of coaches, players, generation, producing lots of players, very good and safe and healthy ecosystem, and a method that was really simple and basically based on repetition and automation to make it a little bit more clear and straightforward. So that was what we trying to rely on, but I'm saying this because it was not that obvious at the start, even though Spain was one of the strongest country already and is still on now with Alcaraz, obviously. Hong Kong didn't really understand that. Hong Kong already had Spanish players before, but no one was really able to explain and to break it down in pieces. So that's that exercise that I had to go through during my time at Bruguera in Hong Kong GTA was very interesting, because I was able to understand even more what Asia wanted and how to explain it. So that's how my current project starts, actually, where The One Tennis Academy, my current academy, is creating a system where I'm trying to accelerate the learning curve. I know that there's a few things to pick on when you entering a new country, a new nation, a new market, and for having studying it for the last I would say 8 to 12 months, I understood that there was a few things that I needed to do. I needed to bring a tournament platform here. I needed to partner with some of the most dedicated coaches here. I needed to have some sort of English exposure because Japan is very very close in a sense that there's not too much English going on here. There's not too much foreigners, but they travel a lot, and they travel a lot because they have a very good work ethic in general. They have probably one of the highest level in the world under 12 years old that I've seen throughout all those years, but they're also suffering from the academic pressure, the social pressure, and the cultural habits that they have in general, which is interesting really at the start because it creates very strong values. But it's also a problem at some point when you need to be a lot more fluid, as I was explaining before. The method is very similar to the Spanish method in a sense that it's very much inspired from all those years that I've spent in Spain and working along with one of the best coaches in the world, Mr. Bruguera. But I have to say also that it's also an evolution of all those years in Asia where I learned little things that Spain don't necessarily adapt to it. Where me, I'm not in Spain here, I'm in Japan right now. Before that, I was in Hong Kong. Before that, I was in China. I had lots of Korean players, lots of Taiwanese players. All these countries are working in a very different way. And even though it seems very close, everyone has their own way of doing things. I would insist on little things also. Part of what we do in general to create the right ecosystem is the confidence in general for the players, for the parents, for everyone. If we don't have longevity, if we don't have confidence, if we're not hands-on, it's hard to create the proper ecosystem. The intuitive intelligence, which I called before, automation and repetition, the ability to hit a shot without being emotionally weak or affected or being very strong. I also always talk about quantity almost better than quality, because if the system is right and the method is right, you need to hit a lot of balls, because most likely you won't have a lot of talented players in your hands. These guys, they will go with the federation. They will probably leave the country. So you have to create your ability to develop players that are more, I would say, average at the start, but that can become really good. So in the top 100 at the moment, ATP or WTA, there's a lot of players that were not spotted as top players in their age. They just had the right ecosystem, or the parents created the right series of components for them to become what they became. So I always insist on that, because I feel that there's a misconception about being very good at a very young age, where the reality is that you will turn top 100 at 23 years old, and if you're a number one under 12 or under 14 or under 10, it doesn't give you any guarantee, because the path is so long and the number of decisions you need to make is crazy. So it's very important to look at the ecosystem like this. Repeat, beginning with the end game, because that's important also for the parents and for the players, and part of the ecosystem, being very clear about where we want to go, what's our purpose. I don't believe in playing for fun. I don't believe in playing recreationally. I feel that if you play for fun, it's incredibly boring, and people that are saying that, they're probably lying to themselves, because who doesn't want to win, and who doesn't want to play well, and who doesn't want to impress their friends, and who doesn't want to have a high ranking, and who doesn't want to go college, and who doesn't want to become pro. So, I mean, the shortcut of all that is that I always trying to clarify things. And I think if you have a proper purpose and a proper goal, doesn't have to be that you have to be the number one in the world for everybody. But if you have something realistic that is based on winning, you will go a lot further in your evolution, and the ecosystem will work a lot better. Of course, it's everything else that you do apart from playing tennis, whether it's your sleeping, your fitness, your ice bath for a certain level of players, the food that you're eating, the time you spend on your screen, these kind of things. The structure of the ecosystem is always based for us in two things: the things we have control on, the things we don't have control on. So in terms of control, there is three things very important for us. Is always to have the right philosophy, which I explained before, the method and the system, because the system, it's kind of the DNA, whether you're learning at Harrow, or you're learning in the American school, or you're learning Canadian school, you're learning German schools, you still have to go to school, you still have to put the number of hours, but the philosophy, the system of the school will lead you to different paths. And the method is really what is your method? How do you see tennis? Do you see tennis as a technical sport? Do you see tennis as a tactical sport? Do you see tennis as a mental sport? Do you see tennis as a physical sport or tactical sport? In our case, I see tennis, and we see tennis holistically. It's not just one without the other. It's not one more than another. That's why every drills we have, they've been designed in a way that it can actually serve every single purpose. And then in the method and the system, there's those three components always: high performance mindset in everything we do, simplicity, repetition, automation, and always that thinking of going to the highest level possible. I always want to believe that if you want to go pro one day, you will have higher chances to end up in a very good college, university team. If you don't have that goal, you just want to go college, your college career might not be as good or as interesting that if you had a mindset to go further. The function of the ecosystem, to make it short, I think it's all about what I said, plus having an idea of those micro decisions. Okay, and those micro decisions have to be taken by the parents, they have to be taken by the players, they have to be taken by the organization, they have to be taken by the tournament organizer. And this is how you create the right ecosystem. Why you feel better in one place than another, why you have a better confidence in a tournament organizer or in a coach than another, because he is able to create that ecosystem on the court. He gives you the idea that he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about when it comes down to tournament. He's able to have the right words after you lose a match or you win a match. He's always able to challenge you, all these things. I think the ecosystem in general is not only for a big scale organization, it's for everyone. It's even what you create at home. And for the first part, not to be too long, it was about that.
Okay, thank you so much, Bastien.
Thank you.
Very, very wonderful sharing. So before I've actually jotted down a lot of jot down all everything that you said, and I've got some questions but first I want to ask if any parents here want to ask Bastien anything. Paris, you want to ask anything?
No, it's fine.
Okay. I think that creating a tennis player is and having a high performance or high level play mindset is very, very delicate. So, Bastien, and I totally agree that parents take a really big part in the decision making and that micro decisions that you mentioned about. And during the whole process, they have to be really supportive, no matter if it's emotional, and looking for coaches, spending time, and financially everything. So and for Asian parents, one of the biggest, I wouldn't say hurdle, okay? I'd say its biggest decision is on education, okay? So if a player taking a pro path as a pro player, okay, how do they usually balance their time in education? And because obviously you're in one of the top ranked schools, Harrow, Japan, and apparently kids there are very outstanding academically and in their sports too. So how do you suggest pro players or parents to balance off their studies with their training?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a bit like I said in the presentation, it's important at some point of the development of the player, if there's a chance, obviously, to have this conversation with your child or the child with their parents. If the goal is to go college and you're able to define the end goal at the very young age, I would say 11, 12 years old would be a good age where they start having this maturity to be able to tell you that they really like tennis and they want to commit more with the sports, and they want to be that sport to be their number one sport, because it's in general that at that age that they're able to make the decision. I think from that moment, you creating the plan. That's the moment you start designing, you start creating the map so that they able to think in parallel academics and tennis. Okay, you have kids that are able to do both incredibly well, and you have kids that are not able to do it that well. And that's where, again, we're talking about micro decision, and parents be realistic with their feet on the ground. They need to think of what's really the priority. Is tennis a way to reach and to access big university? If indeed the player has a very good level, then maybe it's interesting to spend more time on tennis and to not worry so much about academics or education. If the kid is able to combine both, then you have some exceptions. In Hong Kong, I met a lot of incredibly tiger mom that were setting their.
I hope you're not talking about me, right?
They were able to envision that for their child from the academic point of view, because I think this is where is a bit of a paradox. The parents in Hong Kong, they have a very clear vision of what they want for the study, but they have zero vision for the sports. The Like they know sports is important. They give importance to the sports at a very young age, and then they do it very seriously, just like the Japanese at a very young age. So that serious mindset obviously develop kids that have a good level or very good level or good values. And then at the age of 12, they're stuck because they still want them to be academically strong. But the dilemma enters where they also see that their kids is enjoying a lot of the sports, and more and more and more, everyone understands the benefit of sports is not anymore just academics, good grades, you get a good job, you get a good life. This is over because things have changed so much now, and with the technology influencing every 5 years the entire world, now we know that you're gonna have to have a different skill, you're gonna have to have a different talent, you're gonna have to be different, and sport is almost a passport to that now. So I think to answer your question is the parents, they need to, once they are in front of that decision, I think they need to think realistically what is the best chance to access the best universities, because you can access because of your level of sports, or you can access because of your level of academics. If you average on both, well, you'll try to aim probably for a very high level university at some point, and tennis will disappear. But if you're close to be that level up high with tennis, then it's interesting to give it a shot.
So when you talk about creating a map, okay, in Hong Kong, okay, is a and I'm very sure that it happens to other countries too. It's like only the cream, okay, only the top players, okay, get sponsors, get supports, subsidies, and everything. But it doesn't mean that those who put a lot of effort and they are not number one, okay. It doesn't mean that they are less. So any other ways that you suggest players who are very good too, how do they start their journey? Rather than only training in Hong Kong.
No, definitely. I believe a lot in those players, because at the end, as I told you, it's I think that the top tier is obviously the most interesting at the start for everyone. But the ones that are putting enough commitment, perseverance, and dedication, at some point they will also be up there competing against those former top players. And this is where the ecosystem is at its best, right? When you have those kids that were detected at a very young age, and then you have the others coming up, and all of a sudden, it's almost like equal. Whoever is really, really good, whoever had the right start, and whoever made the right micro decisions throughout the journey is actually able to make it. So in Hong Kong, just like other countries, there's nothing, not all the countries, but especially the countries like in Asia now, it's either you have a lot of money and you're able to sustain a rhythm and financially demanding budget for your son or your daughter to stay up there and try to give them a shot when they are older. So that's one. The other one is you have to make other micro decisions based on what you can afford. And most of the time when I look at small countries, they know that the game is over already in their country if they stay there. So they start seeing other countries as an accelerator, as a way to understand faster certain things that would never happen for them in their country. So as tennis is really international, and at some point at the high level, you as I said, you have to create your own ecosystem, and you travel with your parents, with your coaches, etc. And you have to adapt and adjust to every circumstances. I think somehow it could be a good idea for those parents that are a bit limited in their territories to explore, different ways to get some good influences, whether it's traveling for training, whether it's traveling for tournaments, whether it's maybe having someone of a good level, not necessarily a coach, but hitting balls with their child if they cannot hit the ball themselves. And at the end, there's a lot of example in the history of tennis of parents that didn't know much about tennis, but they had very, very good values. They were very healthy, and the kids were putting a lot of effort, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment. And with a few things, they managed to, shine and be up there at the moment where the others had all the keys already. So I think it's what the better you are, the less worries you have about that. You have other types of worries. And when you are average, which is basically 90% of the players everywhere, it's an everyday process. It's every day. Think about that every day. Think of what you can do to improve, what you can read to improve, what you can listen to improve. A lot of homework that you do yourself as a player. Mobility, stretching, eating properly, going to sleep early, not getting injured. When you get injured, not just thinking that it happened, try to think deeper. Why am I always getting injured there? Why am I weak there? Maybe I do something wrong, those micro decisions are super important, because especially if you don't have the money or if you don't have the resources, you almost gotta outsmart the rest, so yeah.
Okay. And so you just mentioned that if I have a kid at home, okay, asking every day, I want to play, okay, and 12 years old, 11 years old, and doing quite well, very, very well, quite outstanding. So what would you suggest parents do to start mapping themselves with a high performance mindset? And can you elaborate a little bit more?
I think
what is actually a high performance mindset?
Very good. A few things, especially talking about Hong Kong in particular, because Hong Kong is a place I know very well. There is more and more small scale tournaments than before, especially now, than prior to COVID and prior to all the things I've said with, those 7-9 years that I spent there. So it's definitely a lot better because you got more opportunities to play. Okay, those opportunities to compete are super important, because practicing, you get practicing on the wall, practicing, you can practice by hitting with other players, you can practice with a coach. I think practice is super important. But if you never compete, you actually never able to make that difference. And what I notice in Hong Kong is that almost 60-70% of the players, they're very good at practicing, but they're not that good at competing. They don't know how to compete. They're making the wrong decisions. Their training is always based on what the coach thinks of the evolution of the player, but he never has like a really proper vision on how the player is competing. So competing for me is number one element that you can do to encourage your child to get exposure and get good at it. Because if you're comfortable competing, you can always find your way against better players than you. And there's a lot of example all the time where, the parents or the coaches say, oh, you're so much better than him, or your technique is so much better. But the other just put the ball in, for example. And they're always trying to downplay, the loss by saying, yeah, look how you play and look how the others play. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that the player, when the player is pushing, doesn't mean that he can only push. He can do other things, but maybe he just spotted that was the way for him to win the match. And that's strategy, or that ability to be tactically right, you can only develop it if you play competitions. Competition one. Number two, again, for Hong Kong, it's hard to book courts. It's hard to have access to clubs. Hard to find a good coach. Everybody's busy. Nobody has time. Everybody's running. It's not healthy, for sure. For tennis, I don't think it's the right ecosystem to develop a large pool of players. There will be some players that will be developed a lot more, every time more. But we will have to wait for Hong Kong to be a little bit more open-minded in terms of usage of sports facilities and increase the number of opportunities for players to play. Otherwise, you'll always be stuck in between all those booking system and all that, that trouble that anyone has who wants to play tennis. So one thing that I see is could be important to find is to try to find other players that are in the same mindset and that also wants to improve. Because again, I compare that with my experience in Europe and what I see every time I come back, right? There's a lot more independence. There's a lot more autonomy. There's a lot more freedom in terms of sports facilities, obviously, but the players, they're finding each other. This is something I thought had disappeared in Europe. And when I'm back there, I see it has not disappeared. It's actually still there, at least in the south of Europe. The kids or the parents, they arrange moments to play together. And obviously, when they play together, again, we go back to what I said. They don't just hit the ball. At some point, they play a set. They play games. They play first to 11. They play first to 15. This is how I think they're also very competitive, because they keep on playing matches all the time. Their practice is the match. So that's also another way that I think Hong Kong could improve, and there's maybe some ideas there to develop, is how you can create like a little network of players within what you can do or in your ecosystem, finding 5, 6, and you create a little group chat. One is in charge of booking the venue, one of the parents, and you organize a rotation and they play with each other. That's something that doesn't cost as much as having a class, and that is very interesting. The third one, as I said, is finding opportunities, I think, to maybe combine holiday and tennis. So every time it's possible, I know the parents are traveling a lot in Hong Kong, and everybody's used to, take a plane, jump on the plane and go here and there. There's a lot of good places around, really. China is great, Taiwan is great, Japan is great, South is also great, Thailand. You have lots of places where you can play tennis and you can learn from it, and maybe probably you're also able to pay less and get more hours, more volume and things like this. So that's also a good way to do it. And then maybe last but not least, it's finding a way with your child to play yourself, if you're able to play. If you're able to go on the court and make them do some serves, finding a wall, maybe hitting some balls, finding a place just to repeat, get that repetition on, with you, because at the end there's a lot of things like that happening in Europe and not so much in Hong Kong. Parents don't have time. They send their helpers. They work all week. On Sunday, they are tired. They go for lunch or for dinner instead of going for sports, But if you really want to commit to that, when your son or your daughter is 11 or 12 years old, when you think about it, it's only a few years that they need you. When they be teenagers, you hope that they will play at a high level and that they don't need you at that time. But it's almost like the 12 to 14, 12 to 15 window is 2-3 years where you need to be there as a parent. You need to support them. And if it's, to put on your sneakers and your tracksuit and go on the court and, give them the balls, even if you don't know how to play, for them to serve, why not?
Good. So, last question from me. I don't want to hold up for too long. Okay.
No.
So, you 14, okay, or around 12, 13, 14 years old. So you suggest that in order to, create a really professional player in the future, okay, as parents, okay, we really have to look into tournaments, big or small competitions like ITF, ATF, or UTR, okay, some local UTR like what we are doing, or overseas UTR like a traveling holiday camp. Any other suggestions besides these ones?
The training, I think the training is also one good component that you can consider. Obviously, you try to find events where in Hong Kong where you can have your daughter or your son competing, but then there's a whole interesting part of training outside and come back with some new ideas. I'm not really for changing coaches within your ecosystem. If you live in Hong Kong, you're trusting who you're working with. I don't think, like many parents do, that you need to have that private lesson with that coach because he's exceptionally good or he can change something in 1 hour. No, I don't think this is really a way to do it. Plus, you're engaging yourself into, as a parent, into something not very healthy for the players, for the coach that is currently working with your child. So I wouldn't recommend that. But going overseas for a training camp in Spain, in France, in Italy, in US, where maybe the coaching won't be as good, as personalized, as privatized as you have, the fact that you get an exposure to another ecosystem, seeing other players, other playing style, other mentality, other parents, other eyes on you and you on them, it's so much refreshing, and this is where we got stuck with COVID. I think COVID has killed a little bit of that spirit, and everybody's now is trying to travel here and there, everywhere, without a real plan. But if you plan it in a right way, for example, you find a place that you like and you go consistently to that place, these guys, they will also reward your faithfulness, and they will know that you keep on coming back. They will start planning more. You'll establish a good relationship with them. And again, as I said, as a parent, you almost have to have a vision for everything. If you want to play some tournaments, you got to know what tournament you're going to play and then which one you want to go for. If you travel overseas, you almost want to find one or two places with different surfaces. Playing on clay court is tremendously important. It's tremendously insightful for the players. You almost don't need to have a great coaches. You just need to have them hitting the ball on a slower surface, and they will find their way. So it's a lot of little things that the parents can start forecasting in order to have like a place to go to train, a tournament platform, maybe what's going to be the next one private coach, a fitness coach, a good physio sometimes that you can go to, maybe a one or two mentor that you can follow or listen to on social media platform. Not too many, I would say, because if you start listening to many, you start getting confused. But you pick a few that you like, and you learn also from that. And the more as a parent, the better micro decisions you're gonna make. And same for the kids, right? If they start to know more about their sports, they will get better at it.
So I think I'm running out of questions. But any other questions from parents and players? If not, we are ending our live session here. And
Great.
thank you so much, Bastien. So if anyone want to ask you other questions privately, okay? So should I send out your IG? Okay.
Yeah.
They can reach you out from Instagram, okay? And your academy is the One Tennis Academy, and
Right.
a lot of a lot of friends ask me, you have anything to do with Bastien? Oh, because yours is One Sports and his is the One. It's just coincidence.
It's coincidence. It's a good coincidence. No, for me, thank you so much for having me. I was very pleased to share that with you. And in the future, I'm actually working on webinars for parents. So we actually opening an e-shop in which we're gonna sell all sorts of equipment for paddle, pickleball, and later for tennis. But we will also have a section which will be those webinars that we will organize for parents who wants to get better at parenting their child, and there will be all sorts of subjects, and we'll be sharing a lot of different things for them to become better at helping their child.
Yes.
So I will
definitely bringing a lot of interesting information to parents around the world, not just Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I hope I can talk to you again soon.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And
Thank you.
And okay, so we will say goodbye now.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye.